Hi, everyone. This is Lee from Aussizz Group Brisbane, and welcome you to our live session today, hosted by Aussizz Group. The topic is Civil Construction Design and Communication Courses, a skill assessment and future state pathways. And we are joined by Mr. Sohag Patel, a registered migration agent from Aussizz Group Brisbane. He has over 5 years of experience in the industry and specialized in skill migration, employer-sponsored visa, and family visas. And before Sohag starts his presentation, just let you know, we will waiting for taking your questions. So if you have any concerns, you can put your question in the chat box. And our expert will try to answer all of your questions as when he finished his presentation. And hi, Sohag. Thank you for joining us today. And please share with us how to do skill assessment and future PR pathways for civil construction design and telecommunication courses.
Thank you very much, Lee, for introducing me. I'll be talking about the two courses, Advanced Diploma of Civil Construction Design and Advanced Diploma of Telecommunication, and its a pathway for the further permanent residency. So I'll be sharing my screen to start the presentation. Hello, everyone. So I'll be talking about the two courses mainly. Both are engineering course. The skill assessment pathway for both courses and future stay pathway by studying these courses. So start with our Education Summit 2022. Len, would you like to put some light on our session about this offer?
Yeah, guys, before Sohag starts his presentation, just let you know that we have a bumper cash prize contest. So you can win up $500, sorry, by posting a review of your session under the post and tagging your friends with the hashtag Aussizz Group Education Summit 2022. And you can start comment your social and win the prize right now. I will post the link there, so you should know the contest. So please join and win on the prize of us. And the other giveaways. So we would give some giveaways here. So you can have the opportunity to win our online coaching for PTE, IELTS, CCL online, and you can have a chance to win a 45 visa consultation for free, or you can win one-time PR consultation for free. And most of all, you can have a chance to win up to 50% scholarships offer from Aussizz Group. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Len. So start with the occupation of civil engineering draft person. If you have studied Advanced Diploma of Civil Construction Design, that's a 2 years course available in mostly all of the state in Australia. If you study that course, you can apply for the Engineer Australia skill assessment with the assessment authorities Engineer Australia. So what mainly civil engineering draft person does is prepare the details, drawing and plans for the civil engineering work in support of civil engineering professional and engineering technologies. See, registration and licensing may be required, so depending on the states and depending on the requirement. And also, if you have studied Advanced Diploma of Civil Construction and Design, there is another authority which assess that degree, which is VATASS. The requirement is different than Engineer Australia, even though the occupation code and the are almost similar. If you see the first 4 digit of UNESCO code are 3122, which is which what it means, the most of the details would be similar. Again, the authority of assessing for the skill assessment would be the different one from the Engineer Australia. So what civil engineering technician does is conduct the test of construction material, prepare sketches and tabulations, and assist in estimating cost in support of civil engineering professional and engineering technologists. Again, registration and licensing may be required. So This is the course Advanced Diploma of Civil Construction and Design. Now, the second course which I'm going to talk about is Telecommunication, Advanced Diploma of Telecommunication Network Engineering. A lot of people are talking about this course. If you have studied Advanced Diploma of Telecommunication and Network Engineering, you can apply for 3 different skill assessment. Again, the UNESCO code are almost similar for the first 4 digits. What it means that duties would be the almost similar for the 3 different occupation. The assessment authority would be again Engineer Australia. So for Engineer Australia, you do not need a skill assessment. You do not need a work experience after you complete this course. That's the beauty of this course. You do not need any experience required to assess the positive skill assessment for the migration purpose. So there will be 3 different outcomes if you study this course: telecommunication field engineer, telecommunication network planner, and telecommunication technical officer or technologist. Having a 3 different outcome by doing one course may lead to different permanent residency option depending on the states where you study and also where you find the job. But I'll be talking about the state nomination and employment option by doing these courses in later slides. What telecommunication technician does, the brief position description is develop, monitor, and carry out the technical support functions for telecommunication networks and install computer equipment, computer system and microwave, telemetry, multiplexing satellites, and other radio and electromagnetic wave communication system. So it's all about network and radio networks, and it comes under skill level 2. So what Engineer Australia skill assessment requirement? So there are 2 different pathways. If you want to assess your degree under Engineer Australia, if you have studied engineering course. So one is accredited pathway and second is CDR pathway. CDR means competency demonstrate report, where your occupation is not accredited or maybe the course which you have studied is not accredited. You require to assess your degree under the CDR pathway. So what is accredited pathways requirement? So you must have studied the Advanced Diploma of Civil Engineer or Telecommunication in Australia through the 𝐒𝐿 registered college. So if you have studied the similar course, but it's not 𝐒𝐿 Institute, then you maybe fall under the CDR pathway. You cannot apply under the accredited pathway. Second, the course must be at least 2 years minimum registration. So even though the course is 104 weeks or 92 weeks, you can do it in fast track depending on your visa requirement, but the course has to be registered at least 2 years in the 𝐒𝐿 Institute. Now the fee structure, you are applying under the accredited pathway. So the fees would be $297. And if there is an option for the fast track skill assessment, where you require to pay additional $342. If you do the normal skill assessment without having fast track option, that might take around 2 to 3 months. And if you choose to have a fast track option, that gives you skill assessment within a month. Now the English requirement to assess the credit under the accredited pathway, that person has to have at least 6 band minimum in IELTS or equivalent acceptable score like PTE or TOEFL in last 3 years, unless you are exempted. So if you want to apply for the exemption, if you don't have an English score, a person has to have studied masters in Australia, at least 2 years course or Bachelor of Engineering. Now CDR pathway, I wouldn't be talking too much about it because the whole presentation is focused on advanced diploma courses in Australia. So CDR pathway category for those who have not studied in Australia, at least advanced diploma of civil engineering or telecommunication, 2 years 𝐒𝐿 registered course. Next one would be VATASIS skill assessment. The earlier I was talking about having a skill assessment under the VATASIS for the civil engineering technician. So if you have studied advanced diploma of civil construction course, and if you don't want to assess your degree under the civil engineering draft person, and you might have a more option under civil engineering technician, then you can assess your degree under the civil engineering technician. However, the VATASIS requirement would be different than the engineer Australia's requirement. VATASIS would require at least 52 weeks of experience for the minimum 20 hours a week for at least a year. And the fee structure would be $1,019.70 for online application. Again, fast track option is available for the VATASIS as well. If you choose to have fast track option, your skill assessment would come under within 2 weeks. And if you don't choose to have fast track option, it might take 2 to 3 months to have your skill assessment done. The processing time would be 2 to 3 months for the without having a fast track option. If you study those courses which I have explained you, there are 5 different outcomes you will get by doing 2 courses, 2 under civil engineer and 3 under telecommunication. So what are the pathway, permanent residency pathway if you choose to study those courses? So general skill migration, there are 3 different subclass you can apply: subclass 189, subclass 190, and subclass 491. All of these 5 outcome comes under long-term list. What it means, you can also apply for 189. If your occupation is not on long-term list, you cannot apply for 189. So the basic requirement to apply any of these visa is applicant must have to have a competent English, which is minimum 6 each or equivalent English score. Must have to have a full migration skill assessment, which we are talking about in previous slides. Person must have to have a minimum 65 points in expression of interest, including 190 and 491 state nomination points. So if you choose to apply for 190, state gives you additional 5 points. And if you choose to apply for 491 state nomination application, then state will award you extra 15 points on top of whatever your points you have. So these are the 3 different subclass. The unique requirement for each subclass. So subclass 189 is independent subclass where you do not require any sponsorship, neither from the state, neither from the relatives. That's why it's called independent. So as long as you have a 65 points independently, you can apply for subclass 189. However, getting invitation under 189 would be quite challenging, having a 65 points. Obviously, you must have to have a full skill assessment, 6 band age, and this 189 subclass is directly leads to permanent visa. Again, 190 would be the similar requirement, but the way you apply is different. It is a state sponsorship. So each state has a different requirement, different list of occupation, and there are different states where you don't require a job, or some states require you to have a job. Again, it depends. But person have to have a 60 points independently by applicant, and state will give you 5 points. Need to have a full skill assessment, minimum English score, and that subclass 190 is directly permanent residence visa. Subclass 491 is a regional state sponsorship, or there's another option under subclass 491 is a relative sponsorship. Again, you need to have at least 50 points independently, and state will give you another 15 points. So it will become minimum 65 points of home office requirement. Applicant must have to have a full skill assessment, minimum English score. This visa is a temporary 5 years visa, which leads to permanent residency. There is a certain condition imposed on the subclass 191 when you apply, and when you get the visa, person have to live in a regional area, regional Australian regional area for at least 3 years after getting this visa, and they have to work in a regional Australia for at least 3 years. If they want to apply for subclass 191, they have to meet the minimum income threshold requirement, which is 53,900 each financial year. So it's a little bit background and how much quota allocated to each subclass for the previous financial year and then this financial year. So if you look at the 189, the planning level was 16,652. The actual migration happened in that particular year is 12,986. However, if you see in 2020-21, that has reduced by at least 10,000, quota planning level, if you see. So that is like 61% deduction in 189 quota. So out of 6,500, till so far, immigration has issued only 450 invitation under subclass 189. So hopefully they'll issue rest of the invitation in next 5 months before these financial years ends. For the subclass 491, regional state sponsorship, the previous financial year, the quota was 25,000 and actual migration happened 23,372. However, that has reduced to 11,200 this financial year, more than 55% reduction. So if you see overall, the planning level and quota for the 3 different subclass has reduced drastically, more than 50%. So applying under the general skill migration, subclass 189, 491, and 190, the quota itself is very less compared to last year, more than 50% reduction. Same goes with the employee sponsorship. It was 30,000 and then now it's 22,000. If you look at the global talent, it was 5,000, now it's 15,000. So 200% up in the quota allocation. It was just the overall an idea how the general skill migration works and what was the trend before and what is the trend now. Now, I was previously talking about in a different state nomination for the different states. So requirement for the NSW, I'm going to talk about for the subclass 190 and subclass 491. So do not get confused with the different state nomination requirements. Queensland might say completely different than NSW, and Victoria or Western Australia might have completely different requirement than other states. So if you want to apply for the particular state, you need to make sure that you meet that requirement for that particular state before you move into that state or for the study or for the work purpose. So for the subclass 190 in the state of NSW, if you are residing onshore, applicant must be currently residing NSW. So if you live in Queensland and if you want to apply for subclass 190 in NSW, you cannot apply because the requirement is that applicant must be genuinely residing in NSW for at least 3 months, or if they have a job, then they can apply for subclass 190 with the less residency requirement. Particularly for the subclass 190, the code 3132 telecommunication, all three occupation is not open for 190 in NSW. However, for the civil draft person and civil technician, 190 option is open for that 2 occupations, civil engineering. To get the invitation under subclass 190, there's another requirement is that person have to have a high point and job in NSW. It is not compulsory to have a job, but residency is the compulsory and high point is compulsory. So that's subclass 190. For the subclass 491 regional NSW, there are 3 different streams if you want to apply for subclass 491. Stream 1 is that if you have been residing in NSW for at least 12 months and working in your field and your occupation is on the subclass 491 particular RDA list, then you can apply for subclass 491. However, 12 months is not mandatory. If you have been working for 3 months, you can also apply for under stream 1, considering that your occupation is on the particular RD occupation list. Stream 2, person have to have studied in NSW regional for 24 months study, and person also have to be graduated from regional NSW and have to have a skill assessment from the study they have. It's not like, for example, if you have studied diploma of business and advanced diploma of business in, for example, regional NSW, and then you have a skill assessment of civil engineer or telecommunication, you cannot apply under stream 2 because your study is not relevant to your skill assessment. Under the stream 3, person, that it is very easy stream, but getting invitation is quite challenging. So what under stream 3 requirement is that person should be residing in Australia, and then if their occupation is on the list, then they can apply for stream 3. So easy requirement, but we have seen a trend that person who resides outside of NSW, it's hard to get the skill assessment. It's hard to get the invitation. Even though if you are residing in NSW, person has to have a high point in order to get the invitation. Next one is Victoria. For the subclass 190 state nomination, your occupation have to have on Victorian state nomination list, and you should be currently working in your nominated occupation. And there's a Victoria has particularly like target sector. There are 7 different target sector. If you're not working in the target sector, it's hard to get the invitation for the subclass 190. For the subclass 491, it would be quite similar requirement. You also have to work in your nominated occupation along with the target sector, and you should be working in the regional Victoria, not in Melbourne. Visa options for the South Australia state nomination. Option 1 is subclass 190. For the subclass 190, person applicant should be working in the South Australia for at least 6 months, but not in Adelaide. So they have a particularly regional area, even in South Australia. So they call it outer regional South Australia. So person should be working at least 6 months outside of Adelaide for at least 6 months. If they want to work in Adelaide, it has to be 12 months for the to meet the eligibility requirement for subclass 190. And for the subclass 491, person should be working 3 months in nominated occupation in South Australia. It can be in Adelaide or it can be outside of Adelaide. If you have graduated from Adelaide, at least 1 year of study. For non-South Australian graduates, applicant have to have 12 months of paid work experience in their nominated occupation outside of Adelaide. If they are working in Adelaide, then it has to be 18 months in Adelaide. So once you finished 18 months of experience in Adelaide in your nominated occupation in civil engineering or telecommunication, then you can apply for 190 visa. If you want to apply for 491, there will be a little bit less requirement, 18 months of work experience in the nominated occupation in South Australia. The next one will be the Tasmania. For the subclass 190 state nomination, if you want to apply in Tasmania, it would be most probably come under the graduate pathway. If you study 2 years of study in Tasmania, and if you have a skill assessment, then you can apply for 190 state nomination. Or if you are working in Tasmania, which is in TSOL, Tasmanian Skill Occupation List, then you can apply in South Australia by working 6 months of full-time experience. However, for the civil engineering and telecommunication level 2 occupation, these occupations are not on the TSOL, so person cannot apply by working in South Australia in this occupation. For the subclass 491, applicant have to have 1 year of study, and if they can show that they have a good prospect of getting a job in that occupation, or if they have industry experience in Tasmania, then they can apply for 491. Or if you don't want to study, then 6 months of experience in any skill level 1 to 3 in Tasmania for an employer actively having an operation in Tasmania for at least 12 months, and then you can apply for subclass 491 in Tasmania. So person doesn't have to have work in a particular nominated occupation as long as they are working in under skill level 1 to 3. Visa option for the Northern Territory and Australian Capital Territory, Canberra. For the Northern Territory, person have to have at least 2 years study in NT and demonstrate that they have a good job prospect in NT. On that visa, that allows full-time work rights. For the surplus 491 state nomination in NT, person have to have a 2 year study in NT or 6 months of employment in your nominated occupation with 12 months of residency. So if you have completed, let's say 6 months, but you haven't lived there for 12 months, you cannot apply for surplus 491 in NT. For the ACT Canberra, to apply for 190 state nomination, applicant requires to be working for at least 6 months full time in any occupation that have a higher Canberra matrix points. If you look at the Canberra matrix points, it's completely different than the immigration matrix points. So if you have 65 points on the Canberra matrix system, then you can apply for 190. Again, we have to see what is the cutoff point in particular occupation. Same goes for the surplus 191 in Canberra. The applicant required to be working or living there at least 3 months full time in their nominated occupation or in any other job as long as they have minimum matrix points, and we have to see again cutoff points in Canberra. So each occupation has a different cutoff points. Now the Queensland state nomination requirement for subclass 190 and 491. So for 190, person have to have at least minimum 80 points on the expression of interest, and applicant have to provide that they have worked at least 6 months full time after they have completed their qualification, minimum 35 hours per week, and then they have to show for the 12-month job contract once they get the pre-approval from the state nomination. However, 80 point is the minimum requirement. If you have more points, chances of getting invitation is higher. So the basic the selection process is that anyone have highest point will get the first chance to get invited. Same goes for the subclass 491, but instead of 80 points, the requirement for the points is 65 points for the expression of interest, and applicant have to show that they have worked at least 3 months in their nominated occupation and have further 12-month contract in order to get final approval from the state nomination. Again, having highest point in both subclass will get the first priority of getting invitation. If you want to apply for 491 or 190, the additional requirement is that you have to have a proficient English, what it means 7 band in IELTS or equivalent English exam. If you don't have it, then even if you have 80 points, you cannot apply for any subclass. Visa option for the Western Australia. So Western Australia civil engineering draft person is available for the graduate occupation list and schedule to occupation list, but none of the telecom occupation is available neither on the graduate list, neither on the schedule to occupation list. So only the civil engineering draft person can apply under the Western Australia state nomination for either for subclass 190 or 491, depending on their point. For the 190 or 491, once you get the pre-invitation from Western Australia, applicant have to show that they have a job offer or employment contract for at least 12 months period in Western Australia for the Schedule 2 category. If you have graduated from Western Australia with the 2-year study in Western Australia, then you have to show that you have further 6 months of job contract or you have a full-time experience in nominated occupation. Other visa pathways to, apart from the general skill migration, subclass 189, 190, and 491, what are the options if I don't get the invitation from the state of under 189 or under 491 family stream? What are my options? I still have a job, but I'm not getting the invitation. So employer sponsorship could be the another pathway if applicant is not able to get invitation under any of the previous subclass. So with the employer sponsorship, there are 3 mainly subclass people apply under. 186 direct entry, which gives you, that is a direct permanent residency. Person have to have a 3 years of work experience. Your occupation has to be on the long-term list. If your occupation is not on the long-term list, you might want to explore another other subclass for the employer sponsorship. You need to have a positive skill assessment with the 3 years of experience. Your employer has to be eligible to sponsor you under subclass 186 direct entry. For the subclass 482 and 491, both are temporary visa, but 494 subclass that leads to permanent residency after 3 years of experience with that particular employer. What is the requirement for subclass 42? We'll be discussing in next slide. So subclass 42, people call it temporary skill shortage TSS visa. That is mainly for the work. People call it work visa, employer sponsored visa. In subclass 482, there are two different pathways to get the permanent residency. To apply for the subclass 482, applicant have to have a 2 years full-time work experience to be eligible for subclass 482, and that experience can be on the 485 or on the training visa. So training visa, again, it's employer sponsored visa, but that requires at least 1 year of study or at least 2 years of 1 year of experience to apply for 407 training visa. But I will not be talking too much about the training visa because that doesn't lead to permanent residency. To apply for subclass 482, your occupation has to be on a STSOL or MNTSSL. If your occupation on STSOL, you can apply for 2 plus 2 years visa or directly 4 years visa, and you can there will be two options. Once you have 482, and if your occupation on STSOL, you can apply for 4 years visa, and after 3 years you can apply for 186 TRT transition stream. If your occupation is on MNTSSL or ROL, you can apply directly 4 years visa, and that leads to permanent residency after 3 years. Employer nomination scheme, subclass 186, direct entry or TRT. So applicant must have to have 3 years of full-time work experience to be eligible for the subclass 186 direct entry, and they have to have a skill assessment in their nominated occupation. And if you want to apply under transition stream, you have to have a 3 years of full-time experience on subclass 482. Once you get the subclass 482, if you work for the same employer for 3 years, you can apply for subclass 186 transition stream. You don't need a skill assessment for that. Age requirement is under 45 years old, unless there are exemption apply. Skill assessment is mandatory for the direct stream, but not for the transition stream. Subclass 494 is a skilled employer regional provisional visa. That visa is almost similar to 491, but 491 is a state nomination and 494 is an employer sponsorship. So person doesn't have enough point, they're not getting invitation under 491. But if they have a 3 years full-time experience in last 5 years, they can apply for 491. Person have to have a eligible employer to sponsor him. And that leads to subclass 191 after you work for 3 years with the same employer. Employer has to be in regional area as well. The age requirement would be 45 years old, and a person have to have a positive skill assessment in their nominated occupation. Guys, feel free to ask question if you have any question regarding subclass 189, 190, 491, and state nomination for the skill assessment or employer sponsored visa.
Hi, sorry. We have 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. So I can see some question here from YS. Sohag, please answer.
Let me have a look question.
Yeah. He put some questions. The first one is which state to go for PR, and how much experience is required to get skill assessment, and part-time work is valid?
So For the skill assessment, you don't need any experience, especially for the advanced diploma of telecommunication or civil construction design. If you have studied 2 years course in Australia from the 𝐸𝐸𝐿 Institute, Engineer Australia will assess that course as an accredited pathway. So that's where you don't need experience to get the positive skill assessment. Now, again, with the experience, it depends on the state, which state sponsorship you are going to apply. If you want to apply under NSW or South Australia, they accept the part-time work experience, minimum 20 hours a week. Even if you are on a student visa, you can apply under the stream 1 in NSW.
Yeah, so his next question is based on trend, should I come to Australia? Because he's still looking for the option. He's in the home country now, not in Australia.
So which course he wants to study?
So YS, can you please let us know what course do you want to enroll? He said this one.
If I have a detailed question, it would be easy for me to understand what you are exactly looking for, so I can address that question.
So I got another question. I got another question from inbox. So a student said he's holding 45 visa, and 45 visa will be expired this month. So he wants to enroll telecommunication course. So what is your advice?
So if person has already utilized 45 visa, the next move will be it depending but if person is married or single. If he's single, I would suggest him to study in a regional NSW or study in a Tasmania for 1 year of course, which gives him a skill assessment, or study in South Australia, which makes him eligible under the graduate work stream. Whether he can study telecommunication or civil engineering, he will get this skill assessment for sure. Again, which state he is studying, it depends whether he's married or single. It also depends whether he have studied previously, which gives him a skill assessment or not.
Thank you, Sohag. And YS said he wants to study civil engineering course. So what is your advice? And he is in the home country, not in Australia. So what state he should apply for PR? So what is the trend?
So if he's specifically looking for the permanent residency advice, by which course he should study and where he should study, then I would again suggest him to study in a state where where the state rewards their graduates. For example, Queensland or Victoria, they do not reward their graduates. So if you study in Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane, it's not going to give you any benefits. So my suggestion would be choose a state where you can apply for the subclass 190 or 491 right after your graduates, and choose a course which gives you a skill assessment straight away. For example, if you study civil engineering course in a regional NSW, then you do not require any experience in order to apply for subclass 491. All you need to do is just complete 2 year study, lodge 485, and then wait for the subclass 491 nomination.
Thank you, Sohag. Another question from Shruti. How do we get experience after diploma? Do the colleges normally have in industry placement so we can get the necessary experience that PR asks for?
In regards to how to gain the employment, I would say it's not directly the migration advice. Again, I would suggest to join the a placement company where you can seek or whether you can get a volunteer work experience and then apply for the real industry job.
So guys, do you have any more questions? Please put in the chat box. So we can answer all the questions. And before we leave, please let me have a little time to tell you that we have a bumper cash prize test. So you can win up $500 by posting a review of your session under the post and tag your friend. And you can put the hashtag Aussie group or the hashtag Education Summit 2020. So you can comment on your social and win the prize. And we also have a lot of giveaways. I can share with you here. And we have some giveaways. If you have win this, you can have a chance to win the online coaching for PTE, for IELTS, for CCL online, or you can have a verified visa consultation for free, or you can have one-time PR consultation for free, and you have a chance to have up to 50% scholarship. So guys, please let us have your review there and join our competition, join our the contest. If you have any questions, please put there. We have around 5 minutes. And let me show the reel again before we finish the session. So guys, we have one more questions. Sohag, can you please answer this question, the last one before we go? So it's also from Shruti. Sohag, can you please tell where we can find more information on PR and visas on the internet?
There are a lot of different materials, and we have our Aussizz, UNESCO search portal, where you can exactly find the requirement for the skill assessment, fee structure, and also which state nomination is open for the particular occupation, and whether it comes under short-term list, long-term list, what are the visa options available for applicant. So it's very handy tool. I would say to use that tool in order to explore more options if you want to do the self-assessment,
This is one more, Sohag, as from YS, is between master or diploma makes a difference for skill assessment outcome.
Yes, it does make a difference. Again, advanced diploma of civil or telecom or any engineering course in Australia through CRICOS, that gives you skill assessment under the accredited pathway. While if you have studied master, we have to specifically check which university you have studied from, whether it comes under accredited pathway. If it doesn't come under the accredited pathway, then you have to go through the CDR pathway, which is quite hectic because you have to demonstrate the 3 projects, or you have to show the reports from your academics. Again, the way you get the skill assessment under the accredited pathway or CDR pathway would be different, and the way of getting it different. So again, which university you have studied master from, it depends. Again, outcome wise, the advanced diploma skill assessment would be level 2 occupation. Again, it doesn't make any difference in terms of visa, because all of those are on the long-term list, means most of the visa available to those occupation. Master, whereas if you have studied bachelor or master of engineering, your outcome will be under the level 1, which is like more proficient than level 2 outcome.
Thank you so much for the answer and for your time. So guys, we will stop the live session here, and thank you so much for attending the session. And don't forget to leave your review for the session. I shared the link in the chat box already. Your feedback is much appreciated. And don't miss out our next information sessions on very exciting topics. Join straight away through the links that I share in the chat box. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Sohag. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.